My name is Jentery Sayers. I'm a professor of English at the University of Victoria, and generally speaking, I study the relationships between technology and culture, with an emphasis on the intersections between old and new media. I think in English studies, it's really tempting and really interesting to study technology as kind of a metaphor or something that's represented in fiction, say in short story, say in a novel, or even in poetry. But what I'm actually really interested in is adding to that approach questions about how technologies were made and used, especially with an emphasis on old media, say old media from the late 19th century and early 20th century, things like the phonograph, the telegraphone, the wire recorder. And in doing that work, I often try to reconstruct historical mechanisms. So a lot of the work I do is invested in the question of how did this become that in these old technologies. So in the lab that I direct, we often work around old technologies and try and reconstruct them. We're working on a series of reconstructions at the moment. And how this might differ from purely literary approaches is that it gives us a sense of transduction, right? How one thing transfers into another historically, but also this really kind of material, hands-on feel of the way in which, again, these old mechanisms worked. From my perspective at least, I think the key thing to remember in this work, and generally speaking, is that the major or primary ingredient of any technology is culture.